And we're back. Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast about what is new and awesome in 3D printing for gamers. I'm your host, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param, and I'm joined by
Christian Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery.
Kristen. What have you
hmm
been working on with your projects lately?
I started a new D&D campaign.
What? What?
Yep. Yep. And they were talking the whole shebang. We did session 0 on Saturday, and it was
Ooh.
good. We made the characters as a group. We talked about
Mm-hmm.
everything and decided to make a whole campaign setting for that group. So I have been world building and printing, and the coolest thing ever, Param, I had I had characters printing on the tray less than 24 hours after they were made. Like the
Ooh.
fastest turnaround I have ever had in my life. And I was thinking back to when I was a kid, and like I would go buy, save, $40 to buy a box set to get one mini out of the 5 in that box set that was even close to a character. And to sit there and be staring on my curing station, yesterday morning and seeing exactly representative minis that had full player approval, like rotating into, reality right there. It was just so cool to think like how fast and far things have changed.
Mm.
it,
I think that's really cool because, again, I think when the people talk about the 3D printing space, there's almost like this myopic focus on the cost savings aspects of it, which
sure.
we've talked about before and are both real and imagined depending on like how you're looking at things.
hmm Yeah.
But that's not where I think the strongest space is. And what you just said, you know, honestly, you could have in the morning printed those minis, painted them in the afternoon, and played with them at nighttime if you wanted to.
Sure, sure. But I still, I'm also preparing for a visit from my mother in law and a bunch of other stuff going on. So I still had life happening. But I'd say
See,
for
you
very
would get
few hours.
so much more gaming done if you didn't have that life stuff getting in the way.
I know, right? Right. But to be fair, I still was able to kick off a print, and go like work on things, get stuff staged for our big dumpster we had come, and then
Mhm.
like I could pull those off and start a cure thing, and then go work on something else, and work on some
Mhm.
freelance writing stuff, and it's been very efficient. And you get your workflow down, you could have so much going on beyond behind the scenes. And in the past, I would have. I don't want to just go back to the cost saving aspect, but
Mhm.
I was still, I think, under. I printed an extra mini for every single character, so I have a set of 10 minis for the party 5 for like $4.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And gosh, when I used to do custom minis, like pre in the dawn of time before 3D printing made
Oh,
everything easy, when it was
yeah.
like I would be like ordering 4 or 5 different Reaper minis and maybe some old Partha stuff, and then like getting out my hacksaw and cutting pieces off of pewter and lead figures, and then pinning and gluing them all together, and then covering up the gaps with green stuff.
Yeah, I remember going to Gamehole Con, gosh, even as recently as like 2017, maybe, or 18,
Mhm.
and being just floored because they had, there's a vendor there who just sells piles of bits. That's all they do.
Mhm.
And I was so excited because I could actually kind of cobble together the conversions and everything. I was still dropping like $20 for a single character, getting all the right bit bags, and it
Oh
was it
yeah.
was neat and fun. And I will not begrudge anybody who wants to take that thing. But I also, as we've probably talked about before this, but not yet on the show, I finally did the digital kit bashes myself. Finally,
Hmm.
and I did it for all the characters. They're all custom with stuff from multiple companies and different bases, and they're all staged with pre-magnetic setups on the bottom. I was so proud of myself. Anyway,
So awesome.
but yeah, it's still got all that customization with no time shopping, no going across the country to a convention. An awesome convention. Alex puts on a good convention, but it was time saving, cost saving, life saving, and yeah, super super efficient for me. So I'm so excited, and I'm excited to be making a whole new world, which is my thing. If you haven't known me or listened to me on any of the platforms I'm on, world building is probably my favorite part of the gaming hobby. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so now you get to build it One plastic file at a time.
It's true. It's true. I did give up on my gondolas already, though.
Oh no, really?
I think so. We're going for elevators because I think there's some really cool platform
Mm-hmm.
print files, and even stuff that like you could do. Like it has like a setting where you can move the platform plate, like the elevator pieces on up, and have it different. Because that's the whole thing. Like I am obsessed with verticality right now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just something we don't see, in play spaces, even online. As much online gaming as I've been doing, it's really hard to do a map that's got good verticality. Like we just
Mm-hmm.
have to put numbers, like, okay, this is 5 squares up, this is whatever. And I don't know if you've used Roll20 much, but like, putting like 25 on there is you can't do it without putting a text box on it. Like, so like the quick functions to just mark things with height, you have to kind of stay within 50 feet basically, because you just got a single digit number you can put on things quickly. And I find that a little limiting, especially since I'm doing a setting where there's hundreds of feet drops from waterfalls and cliff sides a lot. And I'm just kind of scared because starting at first level. So if any of those characters fall off those things, they're dead. Like just gone.
No snap leaves?
I mean, I'm sure somebody will figure out something, but this is 5e, so the magic item content is like drastically reduced.
Mm.
I
I
know
was
we're
thinking
both
about like
used to a
old
lot of,
Eberron stuff with
yeah.
like the little feather tokens and like
Yeah.
because you kind of have to have those in the setting where people getting pushed off of very tall spaces is a common occurrence.
Although Sharon had those weird gravity zones. So like if you
Mm.
got pushed off, you could, if your DM was very nice, hit a manifest space where gravity was less and like either took less damage or you hovered or, but yeah, that would be a lot of fiat. What you working on?
Oh gosh, right now I am working on a whole lot of not much. To be fair, what I've been working on is like grinding out video files for OPR as part of the job,
Mm-hmm.
and then working on refining that badge I talked about last week.
Oh
We are
yeah.
thickening it up. We're adding a little hole for magnet slots. We printed a test piece out and painted it, and like that's been super fun. And I'm also looking at trying to get my first. So Kill Team dried up in the region,
Oh, bummer.
but now I've just got a whole bunch of people saying, "So how about that Grimdark Future Firefight?"
Oh,
So
sure,
I'm like,
sure.
"Okay, well, sure, sure. I don't have to change my plans
Miniatures
all that
agnostic,
much."
and I could use the same minis.
Yeah.
Yay! Yep.
And I'm drooling over Puppets War lately because like they
Ugh.
released like a whole set of night strikers that
Yeah.
would be absolutely perfect proxies for dark angels in Kill
Sure.
Team or
Sure.
grim knights in or grim brothers over in OPR land.
Sure.
I really like the dark angel aesthetic, and so having like a bunch of big old chunky shields and shoulder pads and robes with hoods on them and power armor underneath it is like that's completely pointless. Like what is the tabard doing for the power armor? I don't know, but it looks cool.
It's clearly a heat dispersion unit. It radiates it out through a microconduit system. I love technobabble. Let's just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Then
yeah,
beat people to death with big flamey swords.
I too loved that Puppets War release, but you know what I liked.
You wanted the samurai versions,
Oh, I like samurai versions, but no,
the
there
alien
was
bug people.
there was big bugs in it, and that was really cool.
Yeah,
I love.
Puppet Swords does really good big bugs. I
Yeah,
really
I'm
like them.
trying to figure out how to blend because I love some of the OPR ones too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Wild Mesh, I think, is one of them.
Yeah,
That's
wild
also
mesh
been
stuff looks great.
and I'm kind of like, I want to get an aesthetic. I know, and I can push it with paint. And again,
Mm-hmm.
man, like with those printing up the things from the party because of those characters being from everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
the illusion of the base making them all feel the same is so powerful. Especially
Mm-hmm.
if you get like an interesting graphical base. I just did
Mm-hmm.
that little like alchemy thing I got from Sync Range Ratios.
Mm-hmm.
I like it because they already have their magnet setups and they're hollowed.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
the whole,
helps.
yeah, I up my supports to 65% instead of 40 because I normally I'm only print with like 40 or 45, and all my rims came out beautifully. Thank you very much for suggesting that last week.
Yay!
I mean, they're
Be
pretty gorgeous overall prints. Actually, I did break the cigarette off of one of them though, because he has a little. He's a fire genocide with a cigarette, because he's all like burning and he's like lighting his own cigarette with his hand. I thought it
well,
was cool.
after last week's episode and see Catlet coming in and saying, "Hey, look, Lachi's going to release this tool. I looked into it. I want this tool. It'll support a whole edge
Yeah, you mentioned that, like that it's got ridge
with
or
it'll do it on its own without me
yeah.
having to go click it 1,000 times to do
So,
it manually."
and you did pick it up, or you're still waiting for it?
No, I want it. I want the beta. I want the
Mm-mm.
beta. Lachi, give me the beta.
Did you apply for the beta?
No, I'm
Well,
lazy.
you're not going to get the beta if you don't apply for the beta.
I have asked for things on podcasts and gotten them before. This works. Trust me.
It's a little passive aggressive, man. I don't know.
uh, but other than that, the other thing I have is like now that we're talking about like doing some like Grimdark Future Firefight playing, and of course the Age of Fantasy armies playing, is the frequency that people are asking me to print them little war bands is increasing. Um, it's like I've got one player that's like desperate to get some like Grey Knight style minis together, but there's surprisingly like the options that aren't just this is a direct copy fan model for Grey Knights are slim because they have some rather unique aesthetic options
They
that
do.
kind
They
of
do.
like the wrist gun is important for them. And like I thought they were all Terminators at first and they aren't all Terminators,
No,
and
I
I'm like
actually
I'm
would
very
get rid of
confused as
those
to
of those
what you
kits
are.
because I like the big glaive thing, and the glaive models didn't often have the gun bolter thingy on the wrist.
Yeah.
But
And the Custodes, they sort of have like the whole like boom 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 thing, right? Like they have the big bolters on the end of a glaive thing.
yeah, they do on the
Mhm.
sides of the glaives. So I was distracted because Alex said something about a Lord of Change. Of course, my brain went right to Lord of Change.
Alex says asking for things on podcast doesn't always work. I'm still waiting on the big bird Lord of Change.
While we still don't have a big bird Lord of Change, I did get from Z Kino. There's a Lord of Change. Instead of having the two heads where like, they're kind of side by side, he's actually got a head coming out of the mouth of the other head. It's like this like twisted like curly two headed like two in mouth thing Lord of Change, and the sculpt is very fascinating. And it's super cheap if you just sign up for the enthusiast level thing on the website for like 1 month. You can get it and a whole bunch of other horrible demons. So
You would be the person I needed to ask if I ever wanted a big gigantic collection of horrible demons.
yeah, I probably would. And probably could find I can bargain shop you horrible demons. So
We've got Damnation on a discount.
that's right. Like 2 server drops the beta builds on their Discord. No sign up needed. See Catla says. So you could already be using that beta right
Oh,
now.
yay! Yes, I will go. Not right now. Right now, I'm doing a podcast.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But you could soon. Do not engage squirrel mode right now. Okay.
The other, I've got another player who is like desperate for orkies, and then
So many
another
good
player
orcs to
who,
pick right now. Sorry.
yes, and another player that wants battle nuns.
Okay. Okay. I am a big fan of fantastical sculpts, paladins and nuns. They're really neat because the nuns actually like the Sisters of Battle have always struck me as a little precariously low armored. I know they've got like the flight packs and everything and high mobility and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
at least in the versions I'm familiar with. But
Mm-hmm.
you want some good like sister power armor stuff. Fantastical Scopes has
Yeah.
quite some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think
They did that.
most of the troops in the new version of them are all in like straight legit power armor now, and like only their specialty troops are lightly armored.
Well, that's what I get for not being up on the newest of new editions. So, although I hear they're just gonna like release another one because of the dwarves.
Yeah.
So
10th edition. That will be so much fun, everybody. I get it, it can't be long because, like, for a while now, they've been on a 3-year cycle. That has to be maddening to be on a 3-year cycle for an edition of a game.
I am fascinated because it's getting to the point with digital preservation and access from the last few editions. All these big game companies, from WotC doing their one D&D thing, and them getting ready to do a 10th edition. There's gonna be a point when the player base can just say no. It's gonna happen, and I don't know how. I mean, I guess they keep stopping that by
I mean,
making
with
cooler new models that don't have stats. But
yeah, you're
I don't know.
roboting a little bit, I'm afraid.
Oh, I apologize.
But but I mean, there was one very famous time that the players did say no with D&D.
Oh, yes, there was, and it went really well for 10 years.
So I loved it. It made my career
Yes, yes,
accidentally.
unintentionally. Yeah,
Oh,
but then they went and
Feather
did it
Oz is waiting for the
themselves.
Astro.
Sorry.
Feather Oz, we have fantastic news for you. If you're waiting for an Astra Militarum update, you should go look at GW's website right now. They've got so many Cadians. They got so many new Cadians.
Although there are a lot of Cadian proxies, like a ton, right? Like good ones.
Up all of a sudden, like especially 2 months after I did the podcast for how there aren't any. And then all of a sudden, lots and lots of Cadians start showing up. It's a wonderful time to love little guys with guns and
So
no
that's a
power
comment.
armor.
Feather Oz is about the rules, is what they're waiting for, not necessarily the many. It sounds like.
Oh, the book has to come out soon, right? Like, I kind of also am leaning with the discourse miniature theory on her channel, where with because they've admitted they've been balancing these new books off the other new books, and there's a 6 month publishing delay, so these Cadians might be able to just solo Space Marines if the power level is any indication of the last few
Well, that's
books.
the weird thing. If you release Votan and they're broken, and then you nerf them, but they were balanced against factions that are not printed yet, do we have to continue to nerf the new factions because they're
Yeah,
pulling,
probably.
or are they going to finally say, okay, all the nerfs we did, just kidding, take it all off, weapons free, because now we're in the age of the future. I don't know. It seems like a weird way to
It's really
go.
a situation that is only going to be solved with edition.
Yeah, yeah. You then just did a big distort.
Yeah, I
So
want the big.
I don't know why we're having problems. Hopefully the viewers aren't having as many of them.
Right.
Or
So, of
listeners.
course, the real answer, my slightly incredibly biased answer, is to ignore all of that. Play Grimdark Future.
While I would do an addendum of do any miniatures agnostic game, I would also recommend doing OPR, but for the same biased reasons, since I've also done so before them.
Right. Well, it's just like it's the most direct port of theme and style. If you really like the 40K style of game, Grimdark Future preserves a lot of the fun there. Whereas I guess the other option would be Mantic's new Firefight,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not miniature agnostic, which is weird because Mantic games
Why?
usually are. I do
Why?
not know. I do not
We
know.
don't live in this world anymore, folks. We, we
Mhm.
we live in a world where people make their things and do their fandoms. Let people do their things. Stop it. Alex says, heard a rumor the Astra Militarium book was so hard tuned they had to send it back for rewrites 4 times.
Ironically, if it is imbalanced and they have to come down here with a page one errata, it will have a lifespan roughly accurate to a guard member.
Oh, that's mean.
But like I
So
said, I'm printing a whole lot of stuff for other people right now.
so how are you handling that? Is this a back scratch situation, or are they buying a resin on the side, or what's the situation?
Yeah, so for me, I don't know that I'm handling it the best way possible. I'm just
I
because
can
a lot
guess.
of the
I can guess.
requests. What's
You're
your
just doing
guess?
it because you're nice.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I knew it.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of the situation is that, like, because they're just asking for like 10-man squads or something, it's like that's one print plate. Honestly, I can probably fit another
You could
squad on
you
the
could
same
probably do
print
two at a
plate.
time, is what I was thinking. Yeah, like
Yeah. it's like a couple of bucks. I'm not gonna bother with it. If they want to buy me lunch, whatever, that's fine. As far as like the only time I've ever asked for anything in return for printing is like when my friends wanted whole gigantic armies.
Hmm.
Like I want 2,000 points worth of Kings of War models, like, and that's like 100 plus figures on the field easy.
Yeah.
In which case, I'm like, buy me a bottle of resin, and that's it. I will use that resin to print the models.
100, I'd probably ask him for two, honestly, if I was really doing that much, especially if I was doing any big boys.
Hmm.
But
Well, if you're doing an army, you've got to have some big boys.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
got to have a big centerpiece dragon
or
or the
something,
equivalent of a dragon
Hydra
if you're
or
doing it.
Demon Lord. Me and Demon Lords.
Mm.
However,
I've seen some of those giant demons that are like this tall,
yeah.
like from Arc Villain.
Oh,
Oh my
that Arc
gosh.
Villain one is sweet, but that War Demon Lord from our boys also is pretty nice at OPR. I was gonna
Yeah.
throw out
Oof.
though. Do you find you open the door and then suddenly you get you customized it a little, so obviously you can customize it a lot. So now that you've given
Huh.
him a halberd, I actually want to, energy glaive, and I want two skulls on every elbow. And like, do you run into this? Like, I'm joking, but I'm not joking because I have run into the situation where the second I start customizing a little, suddenly it goes from, like get me a puppy to I want Bichon Frise or whatever they're freaking called, with pet papers and the whole nine. They want me to really go deep. Like I sent, each some approval, and this is fine because this player in question just doesn't know what he can and can't ask. He is brand new to D&D, has never ever played before, and
Hmm.
so when I sent him pictures, I started sending him oh, well, we could go this way or this way. And, you've got the dual wield thing because you're a ranger, but you also have a bow. And how prominent do you want it to be? And I was like, we could even do multiple minis. Shouldn't have said that, but I did. And so, like,
Oh
suddenly
man.
it's like, oh, well, I can have an in flight arrow pose and my leaping choppy pose and still have roughly the same mini because the pose is very dynamic. It's a Artisan Guild. And then, of course, I swapped out like hands from different sets to get the right sword look because they were short swords, not, you know what I mean? And it gets to the point where,
Hmm.
you know, nice, I can see it, nice is good and being cool is great, but like maybe sometimes resin doesn't cut it. What do you think?
I mean, like, I have been asked to do a whole lot of customizing, but like customizing comes real easy for me and really quickly for me, so I don't usually worry too much about it. As long as I'm not having to paint it all, then I because that's where the real time investment comes. Like having the printer do extra work or me spending an extra 10 minutes in Blender is not all that much. And these are all friends. This is not like random strangers.
Uh-huh.
Like I really only print for friends when I do this. I do not want to become, absolutely do not want to become a print farm because that
Mm-hmm.
is, I understand it is a lucrative business. I understand that it is a business that you can do rather well at.
And
I
still
do
has a
not
lot of
want to
demand.
be, yeah, and I
Tons.
do not want to be that person. I do
Yeah.
not want to have a storage building filled with printers running nonstop and me minding other people's prints because, just doing this as a podcast and then the other work I've gotten into in the miniature hobby space has already made this more of a job than I wanted this part of my life to be.
Think of it, Param. All those build plates lowering in and all the wonders coming back up, all in every direction. And
I'm
you
imagining cleaning all of those prints and then
That is
hanging
totally
myself.
fair. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
disgusting. That would be
yeah,
like
no, I do
being
not want to.
sticky and smelling like resin for days. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Alex says they went for an interview at GW today. So if James Workshop asks, he's not here.
Got it.
Got
Alex,
it.
who? Never heard of him.
Alex, yeah, who? Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned painting because it is interesting. I had everything in response because again, this is a half brand new group. There's two brand new players, and then some very like one of them was a theater of the mind 5e guy, and it's the first time he's playing with minis.
Mm-hmm.
And just the assumptions that came out were fascinating because there was a lot of like, okay, well, how are you going to paint them? I'm like, well, and I do think I will paint up a set because I did make multiples because it was cheap and easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want a copy available for each person to paint themselves if they'd rather also. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but it's very easy to go like, you know, go ham and just do all this stuff without asking. And so I'm just kind of curious how you approach it because it's
Mm-hmm.
been very similar to on TikTok right now. There's a big dialogue about paid DMing and is it okay to ask your friends for money and should you expect pizza and like where are you at with that? And there was a big
Ooh.
kerfuffle where someone basically said, no, you know, you're not supposed to. And this person was very vocal about it. He also lost 800 followers over the situation. So draw your own conclusions.
Ooh.
But
I think I don't have a problem with paid GMing existing.
yeah,
Um, I wouldn't ask my existing friend groups to pay me to GM if I was already GMing a game for them.
ding, ding, ding. Agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But if I was to start up a paid gig, um, and this is a weird thing because I haven't done me GMing for paid, but I have done like lots of convention appearances and celeb games where I'm the celeb and that sort of thing before, and
Hmm.
that did cost people money.
Yep.
Most of those events were for charity, but
Yep. Exactly. I've done the same. I've done charity tickets that were pretty high, actually.
mhm,
Um,
yeah,
way more than I generally would pay as a player. So,
right. And at the same thing is like I get to game with a lot of people that do pay jamming as just as a friend, and I'm not going to expect for them to let me into their paid gig for free. I mean, if I'm like Amanda doing D&D in a castle, if I wanted to do that, I very much would have expected to pay the
the
D&D in a
premium.
castle fee to go play with Amanda.
Well, you'd also be going to
Um,
a castle, so that would be pretty
Castle's
sweet.
cool. Castle's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
you know, for me, it's interesting because I was talking to one of my
Hmm.
friends who does do paid DMing like a lot.
Hmm.
School teacher, and during the summer, he just runs games, and he runs 2 sessions every day while his wife's at work.
Hmm.
So he literally ran, you know, at least 10 games a week, often more than that. And
Wow.
it was weird for me because when I kind of got his numbers and everything, he was very transparent. I was like, you know, you know, do I feel okay ever asking to game with you? Because he keeps saying he wants to run a game, but like when I'm like, no, literally, I'm taking like, you know, hundreds of dollars away from you if we have a regular game.
Mhm.
And it's also weird though because he came back at me. He's like, well, I don't know how to react to you, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I'm a professional DM and I do this and I do voices, and it sounds like you do voices and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, but you also, you know, you paint, you know, fully detailed decked out terrain and you do custom minis for all your players. And he's like, I would expect to pay like top dollar for that, and this is the stuff I'm doing for my free players.
Mhm.
So it was weird for him. He's like, yeah, you're really triggering my imposter syndrome because like you're doing all this stuff. And I was like, dude, it doesn't matter. It matters whether or not your players are coming to the table and they leave with smiles. Like, you
Mhm.
know, if they feel like they got their value, it's cool. But
Mhm.
I am kind of doing a Cadillac experience, I think. So he had a point.
Yeah.
But
Now to flip that around,
yes.
you do a fantastic. Yeah, you do great with your games. Like I'm a bit jealous a bit of some of your players about what they must get to experience playing with you. Uh, and and not to pat my own back too much, but I think I'm a fairly good game master.
I have it on very, very, very many recommendations that you are. So,
Yeah.
but
So I want to. So I think that there's definitely some value there, but if you're gaming with friends and stuff like that, and it's the social contract that hey, we're just doing this as friends and stuff, I would never think about charging my friends at
oh
all.
yeah, and it's interesting because I only had
Hmm.
one in this new group, one player I'd played with regularly before
Hmm.
in the group,
Hmm.
and I know professional DMs who will have the ringer in the group, have that friend like I won't charge you if you'll help me corral people. I've seen this arrangement before.
Hmm.
So your friend gets the free game out of it, but they're kind of an inside operative for the group and keeping
Mm.
things stable. But that even still, like we were at FanX and I was talking to these people, and it was clear that one of them had barely got a taste and really wanted to play. And another person was that person, he's 40. He
Hmm.
his whole life has been around people playing D&D and for some reason just couldn't connect with a group. And I was like,
Oh.
you know what, man, we're gonna make it happen. We're just gonna do it.
Hmm.
And by the end of it, and we, those two people, and I talked to some other friends, and you know, super excited. And here's this person who probably their whole life has just been sitting there waiting for a D&D group, and maybe was insecure, didn't want to ask, or I don't know exactly what the circumstances were, but like this is the enthusiasm I saw people have, when they were 12, that this guy's coming out with it, and it makes me giddy. And to me, that's better than money. I know that sounds weird. I mean, money's great. Don't get me wrong. I'd love more money.
Hmm.
I want at least, several Horus Heresy boxes a week in money. But,
Hmm.
um, the you can't simulate or buy that enthusiasm of someone coming to your table and just being fully engaged. Like,
Hmm.
and I feed off it as a DM. I love it, and it makes it worth going and doing all this crazy stuff and throwing all this time at it, because you can't get that any other way. You can't.
Okay.
So
But what about how to compensate your home game master? Like, should the players pitch in for the expenses of the game, the books, the minis, the everything going around there?
that is a tricky slope for me. That is a
Hmm.
tricky slope. While we're thinking about the tricky slope, Square Peg says, just a friendly heads up, Param, you should check out Magica CSG if you want to make your own custom minis for 3D printing. I don't know what that is. What is that?
I don't know. I've never heard of Magica CSG. I've heard of lots of cool custom mini stuff, but I've never heard of Magica CSG. So, hey, Square Peg, tell us a little bit more about that. That sounds cool. I
We
love
will
making
look for a
custom
follow-up
minis.
comment later in the show, hopefully.
Yes.
But yeah, it's weird because now we're in that situation where, like, I definitely do stuff. Usually what I do for my dungeon
Mm-hmm.
master is offer running a game for them.
Mm-hmm.
That exchange, especially if you have a forever DM friend,
Mm-hmm.
is huge. It's a pressure valve for them, and it helps inspire them because they see stuff you do. But if that's not what I can offer, then I get in weird. Like, I have a hard time. Like, I'll take someone out to dinner sometimes, but I like, you know, I, I've had a player before say, "Hey, if I would just throw some money at you for PDFs and books, like, how much do you think you spend?" And that is not a number I am comfortable sharing.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
No, 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 no,
No.
no.
Nobody gets to look at my gaming budget but me.
Well, and especially because, like, I buy non D&D, non whatever. Like, I love supers games. I love
Mm-hmm.
indie games. I just backed Apocalypse Keys, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I backed Apocalypse Keys knowing I will probably never play it. Granted, it was a very reasonable buy-in for their PDF, but
Right.
you know, like,
I
go ahead. Sorry.
I will say I don't mind it when my players feed me.
I don't either. I mean, I don't mind any of it, right? But I can't
Mm-hmm.
ask for it. I just
Yeah, I
can't.
never asked for it, but I do notice that I'd pay for pizza a whole lot less when I'm the game master.
This is fair. This is fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I
No, I
think it
don't
is
ask
a
any of my players to chip in for cost of books or anything like that. I buy all that stuff, and I usually am the person that buys all the minis and all the terrain and all the stuff we're using to play. And in the wargaming space, I'm the guy who has all the tables and the terrain and
yeah,
hell, most of the minis everybody's using. Um, and so, but for me, that's just like part of my fun.
yeah,
And but I do notice that, hey, GMs appreciate it when you bring snacks and give the GM food. Feeding a GM is a great thing to do because it makes the GM happy and feel appreciated. I don't ever ask for it, but I do like it when I'm fed.
I think if you know enough about your GM and they are a printer like us,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the resin offering, particularly unusual resins,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't get like too far, out there. I mean, still probably sticking your 405 and your,
Ah,
but like getting
this.
some weird colors or translucence or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or if they have an FDM printer, getting just a spool of filament, as long as there's standard stuff.
Right.
Um, you
Supplies to the cause.
I would say the biggest sneaky thing you can do is find out the models of printers they have, and you know, uh, that to me, like once you know that, you can find a pretty affordable option for resin or filament if you want to go that route.
Mhm.
Alex says disappointed that PF2 playtest rules about rewarding players who bring snacks didn't make it into the official rules. Well,
Yeah, I never minded giving. I usually do give out a bonus hero point to anybody that contributes to the game.
uh-huh.
Like, especially since in most of my games, hero points are very ephemeral and get used quickly and aren't like a permanent power imbalancing reward. But like, the person who keeps track of loot gets a hero point. The person who brought the snacks gets the hero point. The
That's
person
funny.
who
I always bribe people with him
Mhm,
uh for just doing role playing stuff or doing like
mhm,
an out of character vignette or whatever.
mhm,
Or if they do like if they paint a mini or do like art,
mhm,
anything that enriches the rendering of the game as for the
mhm.
group so that it's more tangible for everybody, that's usually where I go.
The one that gets jumped on the most in my groups is I offer up a hero point at the beginning of the game for whoever can tell us what has happened so far.
Oh yeah, yeah. I usually do. Tell me in narrative your favorite moment from the
Mhm,
last game, and then so everybody can chime in on different things.
mhm,
That's one of the ones I'll do when I do like a recap for sure.
mhm,
And speaking of rewards like that, like
mhm,
so many other systems, 5e has inspiration, and it's even less balance disruptive.
mhm,
Um, Fate and all those other things, they just have narrative currencies
mhm,
aplenty. So this applies to any game you're playing. Like I think it's a
mhm,
great way to counter reward and encourage that. One of the things I'm trying with this new game is giving the players a point of inspiration to award to another player. I think that'll be fun. But um, yeah, I think creating a culture of generosity at your table will only benefit you
mhm.
as a GM and as a player. So
But looping it back, the conversation to 3D printing.
mm-hmm,
So you're the person, you've got your brand new 3D printer. You
mm-hmm,
love your brand new 3D printer. And suddenly you're the guy in the gaming group that has the 3D printer.
mm-hmm,
And the friends, the gamers, they need things printed. They saw this really cool Kickstarter. They saw this really cool mini. You showed off a thing you made and now they want one too. Or, hey, they wouldn't mind getting into that game with you. Can you print them a warband?
right.
How do we handle this? How do you handle this? How do I handle this?
Tried to handle this last year when I was going to my mini factory and saying, "Can you get gift cards?" Did they ever do that? I don't know if I've seen it
Nope,
yet.
they didn't. I've even chatted with
We've been
them
talking about that
in,
what since like
yeah, I even chatted with them in person, one on one, and they say that's a great idea. We're working on it. Nope.
uh, so I guess buy a prepaid Visa and say, "Hey, buy me some STLs with this." That's one thing. I will. Here's one thing I will always do for someone.
Mm-hmm.
You let me buy the STL and keep the STL as an asset. I'm much more likely to print you that. So like if you give me a prepaid Visa or whatever it is, be careful with those, by the way. They don't all work on all the many sites, so you need to
Mm-hmm.
make sure it's one of the ones that will.
Yeah.
But like if somehow I get cash to buy that file, I am so much more likely, because if I get to keep that and print more for other games later,
Mm-hmm.
much more interested in helping you.
So I usually don't want. I don't want to be involved in buying files for people at
Oh,
all. I
interesting.
want
Okay.
them to buy the file, send me the file that I'm not going to keep. I'm not going to keep a file that I didn't buy. But just to be like, okay, for this one moment, I am now a printing service. So you hand me the file, I will take care of the printing, and you take the thing, and then I throw the file in the trash because I don't want random ass files cluttering up my meticulously organized STL bundles.
Oh, we can talk about that other thing then, because I
Uh,
don't think we have a choice right now to have random ass files cluttering up our drives.
oh, that's a later
Again,
topic. We're not ready to transition to it.
all right, I'm surly about it, but yeah, back to then this one. I am
Mhm,
saying, as part of this quid pro quo or gift exchange, if you want to support your DM or
Hmm.
the tabletop crafter, whoever it is, the printer. I think giving them the funds to buy the mini files is a way to go. It sounds like you maybe feel that that's a little shady. I'm sorry if you do.
Like there's it is isn't in some cases like pay attention to the licenses you're agreeing to with any given file or artists, because a surprising number of them actually don't care if you're printing for friends.
Hmm.
Some of them, like Orc King, like they don't even have a merchant tier. They just you can just do merchant with their normal
Their
tier.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And free files, it just doesn't matter. But like, I do pay attention to the licenses I'm agreeing to. If I'm like printing from my collection, or they're adding to my collection. But like most of the time, I just want, hey, you give me like send me the file you want printed. I'm not keeping it. I'm just going to print this thing that you have a license to have printed. Here's your thing. Pay me in resin,
Yeah.
if there's friends. And if it's less than one print plate, I don't care about getting reimbursed with resin.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, probably that's true. Looks like Heriberto. I don't know how to say. I'd
mhm,
say Valle is what I would guess is the last name, but I could be wrong.
mhm,
Has all sorts of comments that have popped in there, talking about
mhm.
inspiration, talking about a painting club, the Society of Miniature Painters. Um, so it's a take one, paint it, and keep it. Take one,
Oh,
paint it.
paint takes is going to be interesting concept.
Yeah,
Like if you wanted to have a painting club, having a 3D printer is like joy to the world. Because I love going to the paint and takes at like my local conventions and stuff, or even like the big ones like Gen Con and such.
yeah.
So do you print? And like at what point in time is a job big enough that you're going to ask to be reimbursed with resin or even bigger? Whereas like at this point in time, we need to start talking about print fee for my
Yeah.
printer to burn up at that point.
Um, my dear friend got a present that took almost a whole spool of FDM, and
Oh
I
boy.
did ask for compensation with that, and I would have been happy for more FDM filament, but she just gave me money, which again with that being earmarked for that, I was fine with that,
Hmm.
but it was a really cool deck box for Magic the Gathering, and I thought it was really neat. And it has a working lock and everything on it. It was the first time I'd ever made anything that had like
Ooh,
mechanical shifting pieces. So,
that sounds really cool.
but yeah, I think for me, I'd say more than a couple minis. Probably, I would hope there'd be some sort of resin or something. I would say like a full army, more than a couple plates. There has to be resin probably thrown at me. Not to mention, at that point, we're talking time. Like one of the things, and this is one of the things that's horrible to talk with your friends, but like picking supports off of an army you don't love or don't want, that adds up. And like
Yeah.
sitting there and spending hours sometimes, granted less so now that I'm making my minis right and not like making them, I'm using tenacious and making sure that I'm having less breaks and they're being laid on the bed and the supports are happening in a way that are much more conducive to getting off there. My process is refining, and I'm sure if you were a print farm, whatever, you'd get like your process nailed eventually. But it's still a lot of time, and
Hmm.
the goo and the guck and the dealing with the poisonous parts that aren't that poisonous, but it's a lot of time and effort, and that's before we even get to the possibility of painting. I also have a bunch of friends who don't paint, so like then there's the
Oh,
question of what
yeah.
we're doing when we get to that point.
This is like where like how good of a friend are you really starts to play into effect. It's like
Right.
if you're part of my weekly game group or my sister, you get
Your
whatever.
sister gets the sweet hookup, I have to say.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, go on.
yeah. And I'll paint your crap for you too. Like that's fine. If you're just random dude I play with on game night at the store, and you want a couple of minis printed, okay, that's fine. Anything bigger than that, and like, yeah, I'm gonna need some resin, or like. if it's like multiple plates worth of stuff, I'm gonna need some resin, dude, before I'm gonna do this, because there's the time involved. And for a big army project, I don't know that I would do like a full like 2,000 point army for anybody that wasn't a very close friend at all, regardless of compensation, because of how much of a P in the A it is.
Well, yeah, and then you're also dealing with
Mhm,
like, okay, representative minis, if it's a
mhm,
depending what the game is, you know.
mhm,
So are you actually designing their army list for you? Do you have to learn to play that game if you don't playing it? Like, if because I've had people ask me to print stuff for games I don't play.
mhm,
There's a lot of sci-fi stuff out there that I don't currently engage with. I like sci-fi just fine, but other than like Starfinder, I don't usually regularly play sci-fi stuff aside from maybe some skirmish, and
mhm.
my ever growing chaos horde that basically works for every game that has demons in it, which is one of the reasons I love it. But yeah, it's funny. We're as we're talking about this, Roberto just said, it tells you when you're doing your print plate how much estimated resin cost is,
Mhm,
and there's a dollar amount right there that is you didn't determine. So if you want to go with that as a base, and then
mhm.
if you need to add time, and I, I,
Right.
I honestly do, if you're doing an army,
Mhm.
ask for something for your time, because that
Yeah.
just it gets there, and like especially if you do have like a support situation or whatever, like that takes forever. Ugh, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, removing supports, processing the prints, like wear and tear on your printer is a real thing at that scale.
sure.
Like the LCD screens have a lifespan. FEPs wear out. You're putting hours on that printer that you need to, and then of course, like there's the electricity that ain't free no more.
Nope.
You need to take in some account for the utilities that you're spending.
I
Like
do have solar though, so I feel good
yeah.
about that.
So at one point in time, you might have to like actually start looking at like the price calculators that the print farms do use to just
Mhm.
like calculate your time and just to make sure that you're not losing a significant amount of money just being a pal. But and once it reaches that level, if I'm not a big enough of a pal with you,
You're just
that I
not gonna
was
do it.
willing to eat that $30 worth of cost, I'm not gonna, and that's not. I'm not gonna spend the hours it is taking that. But I mean, if you're part of my like weekly game group or we play Warhammer every freaking day, um, then yeah, I'm gonna print your stuff and I'm gonna do it just because I'm your buddy and I want to get more games in and I want you to have a really cool freaking zombie dragon.
Sure, sure. Roberto just asked if we have a Discord. We do technically.
We technically have a Discord. I'll start promoting it later.
It's a very quiet, serene place compared to my normal experience with Discord.
Yeah. We kind of did a spurt in trying to get it going and then like forgot about it because getting a Discord community takes a whole lot of work.
Well, and the
Um
the thing that's
and,
also
and
strange is we
also
found
I'm
ourselves
alone there.
competing with our friends who run theirs for all of their Patreons. So it's kind
Hmm.
of like I do think there's a use for it, but there's also so many
Yeah.
great Patreon communities out there
Yeah.
that I'm
And also we started that back when we had like a couple hundred listeners and now there's a lot more of y'all. And so we should probably think about getting that going again.
how excited I would be to engage with that.
I know I can't get you on Discord.
Well, I am on Discord, but it's 72 servers currently that I'm on, and that's just so much to keep up with. So
Yeah,
much like
it's my like I have to scroll and scroll and scroll through Discord anymore. I put them in folders and I still have to scroll just to get through the list of folders that everybody's in.
yeah, yeah. And so then like this is something I get into people's personal Discord sometimes, and I'm like, they have 72 sub channels or something in their thing, and I'm like, you run 3 weekly D&D games. Why do you need all these?
I make a new Discord for every D&D game.
Yeah. Like, do you have sub chats for like talking about favorite TV shows while you're playing D&D? Because that's
Yes.
what you do.
I will
Okay.
I have a general okay, this is my standard, this is Param's standard Discord setup, okay? for a
Okay.
new game group.
New game group.
Okay, first there's the general chat. Just because every Discord should have a general chat, if you don't have a general chat, shame on you. There needs to be a place for all the random junk to get into so that your other channels don't get cluttered with stuff that don't belong in them. Then there is a scheduling chat. Its sole existence is to talk about scheduling, to make sure we all know when games are happening, when they need to be rescheduled, when they're canceled, and who can make it, and where we're going to go out for dinner before the game.
Okay.
That okay. Then we have game chat, where we're talking about the game itself.
Do you have game chat OOC and game chat in character? Are those two
We
different channels?
don't if I have I don't really do in character stuff on Discord, so I don't do that. In groups that I have had it, I want the in character stuff separate.
Yeah.
In groups that I play in, but I usually prefer to keep my in character stuff at the table.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's usually a just straight up memes and things chat for all the memes to go into. And if that group happens to have other sub interests that are unique to that group, like this group is just really into Gundam, then they will
Mhm.
have a Gundam chat or whatever is appropriate for the community. And then of course there's going to be a voice channel and a private voice channel. The voice channel for if we happen to do online gaming, and the private voice channel for me to pull people into when I need to have the side chat because they found out that they were a mimic and the party doesn't know yet.
A player found out they were a mimic.
It's a good thing to know when you're a mimic.
I see. Yeah, that sounds not like a Discord server. That sounds like a part-time job. That sounds like to
Well,
me.
and I have like a dozen of those
Nope.
for every active game.
So you don't retire them when the old game ends?
Well, they were if they. So what I do with old discords is they get if the discord's no longer in use, it just gets filed down at the bottom in a folder called archive.
Okay.
I set it, and if I need to, I'll set it to permanent mute and then throw it in the archive. I don't like to delete things because I like to have a record of the things that have happened, or if I need to go back and connect with one of those people that aren't in any of my current groups, etc. Or I
Yeah.
just need to pull that really awesome meme that we used 2 campaigns ago because it's appropriate to bring it back again.
Sorry, I'm just thinking back to all the time. I'm like, thinking things are chill, and then suddenly I see like 12 pages of screen cap Discord images. I'm just like,
If you're dealing, honestly, like that sort of drama, just miss me with it. I don't care. I don't want to get involved in that level of drama. Like
oh, I didn't
seriously.
get involved. My drama was because I wouldn't get involved because everybody
Mm,
thought that I should be involved, and I was like, I don't care. That's another company. It's not me.
mm-hmm.
But people really want you to get involved if you're doing OGL stuff with the same space, and I don't care. It's not my it's not my circus, not my monkeys.
Well, let's talk about something that is our circus and is our monkeys, Chris.
Yeah,
The news.
the
And
news.
the only news item we've got is my mini factory. What's up?
What is up?
Why you having so many tech problems lately? My mini factory is important to this community. It is the website that the community is kind of gathered around for the for-profit stuff. It's the Steam of 3D printing
Yeah,
in more ways than one. This is a lot of us have moved to my mini factory, and creators is sort of like it's the archive. This is where the files are kept, and this is where you go and get your files. This is the all the stuff is fulfilled here so that you do not have to worry about downloading your stuff before the end of each month. And oh boy, like it's like drive through RPG. Is if you're familiar with drive through RPG in the RPG
I was
space,
going to bring that up. Yeah,
my mini factory is the same thing. Steam
yep.
for video games, drive through
Hmm.
RPG for this, Bookwalker for your manga. Like this is the place where like the community has rallied around. So it's very important that my manufacturer get their stuff together and make sure that they're reliable. Because drive through RPG is reliable.
Hmm.
Steam is super reliable. I never
And
have to worry about not getting access to my Steam games. But you
and from
know
the
what
creator
happened
side,
last week?
yeah, creator
All of
side.
sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Go. I was just going to say creator side drive through RPGs got it dialed in, but you were
Yeah.
saying about last week on my mini factor with
Yeah. My
OPR.
mini factory, OPR's library disappeared.
Like all of it, right? Like
Like
was
all
just
the old,
gone.
like not all of it, like 20 items stayed behind.
Oh,
And it's
just
just like
20.
it's like
So like a
logging
tenth
in,
of a release was still
searching
there.
for. Yeah, I was like middle of the night. Hey, I need to download me some space lizards. I want to 3D print me some space. Where are all the space lizards at?
They're all
Where's
gone.
all of their files? It's all gone. They got fixed within a few hours, but still. And then like we're hearing from creators that they're having a crap time getting their stuff updated. We're
I,
seeing messages about how long it takes to get
I had
files
a
validated.
rare moment of lucidity with Discord messages the other day, and I saw 3 different Patreon people be like, "Really sorry, we've been trying to update, we've been trying to upload this month's release. We don't know what's going on. We have talked to my manufacturer, we don't have no idea." And it was like 3 different Patreons, and these are not like small like shops. This is like whole big monthly release people
Like
that
you said, Epic was one of them. They're huge.
Epic was supposed to have their stuff up for this month on the 8th,
Hmm.
and it's still not up. I
Yeah.
actually, fortunately, their September links were still active in Patreon.
Hmm.
But if you've done Patreon, you know that that's rare. That the old
Hmm.
link from the usually the second that link goes down, it is down. And I think some of these creators are learning that they can't rely on My Mini Factory to have their back for the day of release. So they
Yeah.
are leaving them up for a week or so.
In those first couple of days of the month, my manufactury is like very hard to use because of all the traffic it's getting hit with.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also rough on the creators because now like I said with Epic right now, if you joined for October, you could go get their September stuff and not pay for it very easily. And I think they're willing to take that hit to be a service to the community, but that shouldn't go back on the artists,
No.
creators, I don't think.
And I know this ain't easy. Like 3D printing presents a unique problem of gigantanormous files that
Hmm.
need to be distributed to all these customers. And I'm of two minds of that. First, yeah, they're gigantanormous. Also, a whole lot of you creators need to learn to decimate your meshes. There's no reason a shield should be a gigabyte, y'all.
Yeah, I occasionally get some open, and I'm like, why? Why is this? It's a nice fig, but it's like 12 gigabytes, and it's like a 4-piece mini.
I know. It's like, seriously, you really need to get your stuff decimated appropriately like things need to be printed great. But remember, we're dealing with 28 millimeter little dudes. They don't need to be a gigabyte a piece.
Sorry, I
Oh.
just saw something in chat that I missed. Alex said that there's a Chaos Monstrosities Humble Bundle going on. What? I'll have to go look at that after the show.
I think it's for Rogue Trader slash Death Watch RPGs.
Is it an STL?
It's a
Don't care.
PDF. Okay.
Oh,
There might be PDF SDLs. I don't know.
well, then I'm much less interested. But I'll still
Those are
look.
good games. Those are very good games.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
But you know what I
Yeah.
don't need right now? A new
What?
game system.
When has that stopped you?
It's true. Apocalypse Keys, for instance. But yeah, what I do need right now is 4 more Lords of Change.
I, okay. Really? Like, there's been so many awesome Lords of Change models that have gone. I think more people have made that dang bird than have made goblins.
Mm, come on now, that's hyperbole. Anyway, yeah, we
So
diverted.
why is this important? Let's say first, the website's incredibly important, and we want to support My Mini Factory. We want to make sure that this super important tool for the community gets the support it needs. And we know this is a tough job, but you
Yeah,
got to get it right, gang. We have to
please.
be able to rely on this service, or the service is useless. It's really that simple. Like, and if it go and like, I really hope that this isn't just just little growing pains and sputters and stuff, but otherwise, like, the community needs to go somewhere else.
Well, and it's
Somebody
weird for
that can
me
handle it.
as trying to make tribes happen this year.
Hmm.
I actually started preferring some creators. The way they were going through tribes was actually working better for me.
Yeah.
And I was starting to buy into that as a thing, and I even transferred a couple Patreons over to it. But
Hmm.
now I'm like, like if I couldn't have gone back on Patreon and got that file, my little, fire genocide player would not have, or genasi, whatever they're called, would not have a mini right now, and I would
Right.
be very sad because I need to paint that before Saturday.
And it also has me worrying like, do I need to download every single file that I
Could
have on
you?
my mini factory?
Could you? Because I'm not sure I'd have. I have my 6 terabyte
Mhm.
drive is over half full, and I don't know that I could download everything else yet. Like I could.
I mean, like I would, but like it might involve some doing.
Well, and here's another thing to say to that.
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but my ISP has data caps, and
I thankfully do not have data caps.
I still regularly get the hey, I got the email. We're near a data cap, and I'm like, okay, it's the 28th. Can I make it with the last 10 gigabytes we have?
Data caps need to not exist. They are an absolute horrific creation of greed.
Yeah,
Oh, I hate them. And especially in the 3D printing space where every Patreon is like 6 gigabytes of download you need to do right now.
right, right.
And you never have just one.
And then
Like
somebody
how
like
many
table flip.
Patreon? What's your Patreon count right now, Kristen?
Can I crawl into the table really quick?
Is
I don't want to say.
you really don't want to say?
Mm-mm,
No.
mm-mm.
I
Well, I'll tell
am
you this: my Patreon account does include digital map makers for tabletop online. Um,
I will disclose mine
uh
because I
huh.
think so there are I have
You're gonna make me feel bad. Go on.
I have two that are
Cool.
outside of Patreon. One that is um Heroes Infinite
Yep.
because they bribed me with exclusive minis to use their website.
And it worked like a charm for me. Yep.
Yep, darn it. Darn it. Darn it.
And don't care. I love it.
Mhm.
For,
Then one is no two actually. So three. So two of them are on My Mini Factory Tribes, which is Monstrous Encounters and Artisan Guild.
okay. You have Artisan Guild on Tribes. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to convert one over, and they had like, and they were doing a thing where they converted over all my loyalty over
Uh
to,
huh.
and it was like, okay, sure, this is the one to do it with. And I figured that if anybody would get it right, it'd be Artisan Guild. And then one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on Patreon.
Oh, that's adorable.
So I guess that's
David,
15
David,
total, but
David asks,
several of
is
them are $5.
yeah. David asks, is it 2 digits? I think it's still 2 digits.
Kristen,
I will
Kristen, if it
say,
was 3-digit numbers of Patreon,
I don't
how
have
does
three
the
digits. I don't. I
okay?
don't. I do have far more than you.
Oh my goodness.
Now I have also, you know me, I'm a bargain
Mhm.
hunter, so I do have lots of like $3,
Right.
$5,
Mhm.
$4 Patreons. I mean, even like I think I still am locked in at Puppets War at their. I think it's $6 was their original.
I really like that low Puppets War pledge. I'm never giving that up.
Yeah, yeah, I will never. And I got a like Arkville, and I managed to snag one of their early ones because of their tribe transition. I watched their
Mm.
Patreon and snagged one of those, and it's bad that I don't. I'm pretty sure, David, it's not three. It is. If I resub to everything I ever had subscribed to, it'd definitely be three.
It would
I would
just be
say,
the listed STL bundles.
yeah, right. So it's not that though, and I would say I'm probably less than half of all those are active, but there's a lot. There's a lot.
Mhm.
A lot of them are train things, like I love like fantastical plants or whatever,
Mhm.
and there's a couple others that are like really great,
I
like
love
3D
the
hexes.
bargaining that's happening right now.
Yes, yes. I would say at least 4 times what you said.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh, that's a mortgage payment in STLs.
No, it's not, but it's a lot.
All right, everybody, with
And
that
I can hear that
wonderful
James is watching this in the other room, so.
And this wonderful, wonderful factoid. I think that's time when we end the episode. If you want to find more information for or listen to our past mistakes, you can do so over at printergames.com. You can find us on all the socials at facebook.com/printergames, twitter.com/printergames, at youtube.com/param as well. We don't have a Instagram yet. We really need to get an Instagram where we just post all of our painted and printed stuff on. That
I
would be
do have a
cool.
Lost Spheres Instagram, but it is not very active. You can see me terribly paint things on TikTok.
Ooh, yes. Go check out Christian's Seventh Mastery on TikTok.
Yep.
You'll find some many fun videos there. And of course, you can email us at podcast@printergames.com. Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
I'm Kristen Sowards. Don't forget to use your scrape protector.
And we see